So what we're going to look at, you don't see it in the textbooks as much, and so I still think there's some utility to it. And not going to get into all the theory, but just really show how it can be applied in a counseling type setting, whether you're an individual or group. And it's transactional analysis, so Dr. Eric Burns' theory. And I think to some extent what he was trying to do was to make Freudian theory a little bit more accessible. You could almost say here, if you'd like, we've got three components, and all three of these are within the psyche, if you will. We've got the parent, the adult, and the child, which would be very similar to the superego, the ego, and the id. But it's a little bit more complicated with this one, or a little more to it, if you will. So the parent that's within us has probably got a nurturing parent component and then a critical parent component. And the adult is more the logical, rational side that can kind of help manage this energy between the parent and the child. And with the child, you've got the free child that is wanting to explore and learn and probably get into some trouble at times and so forth, but to explore its environment. And then the adapted child is kind of what it was been taught, what it's learned, if you will. And so that's just kind of a little brief synopsis of the theory and what we're getting at here. But how to apply it is one thing that can be helpful is to ask folks when they've done something or that they're not incredibly proud of or that's caused some trouble, is to acknowledge that, but then say, hey, you know, we've talked about the parent-adult child in transactional analysis. When you acted as such, where do you think that came from? And folks will say, oh, that was definitely my critical parent, or that definitely came from my free child and wasn't thinking and just went with it. And so what it can do is can help engender some insight. But then, of course, the next step is, you know, making plans and behaviors for doing things differently. But it can give some insight into, well, where did I learn that? Where did I learn critical parent growing up? Do I really exercise enough of my free child where I feel alive and so forth? So that's one thing. It's just asking people, where did that particular action, thought, behavior come from? Another thing is you can ask people to diagram. Hey, listen, if you think in general in your life, what has the most energy? You know, and so somebody could say, wow, parent's kind of small, my rational adult's kind of small, but man, this child's really big and it's getting me into trouble, and particularly the free child. And so again, we're kind of giving a visual representation to something and help them see things a little bit differently that they can then use later on.